Hey there, thanks for tuning into Duckbricks. I'm Chris, and the brand new LEGO Simpsons Krusty Burger is here. After showcasing the set early from Fan Media Days last September, I now have the set in hand and ready for review. And it's really interesting to see LEGO Simpsons make a return after nearly 10 years in hiatus. This obviously looks like a smaller building from the outside, but it is of course hiding a full-on interior, one of the most detailed interiors of any LEGO building, and it was a blast to put together and just figure out what all the Easter eggs are referencing and see all the different nooks and crannies of the store. It's definitely one of my favorite building sets we've gotten in a while just because the interior is so good, so let's jump into the Krusty Burger right now. Here is set number 10352, the LEGO Simpsons Krusty Burger. It contains 1,635 pieces and will retail for $210 US, €210 or 180 British pounds when it releases on June 1st, 2025. It is the triumphant return of LEGO Simpsons. The last set that we got was all the way back in 2016 with the Quickie Mart, so it's been almost 10 years. And honestly, it's a theme I never thought we were going to see again until now. It was a total surprise to see the rumors pop up of this theme's return, and they've really gone all out when trying to depict this in minifigure form once more. By piece count, technically this is the smallest LEGO Simpsons set, but by price it is the most expensive, although of course that doesn't factor in inflation. My buddy Jonathan, aka Mini Superheroes Today, is doing a full-on comparison between the original Simpsons house, the Quickie Mart, and this set, so you can check that out on his channel because there's a lot of really cool differences between them, so I definitely would recommend you check that out if you're interested in seeing that. As for me though, I'm just going to be focusing in on the main build itself. Much like the previous Simpsons offerings, this focuses on one gigantic location that honestly from the outside might not look that impressive, but is absolutely packed full of details on the interior. It also comes with an iconic vehicle, in this case Homer's clown car, which you can see is kind of Krusty themed going alongside the vehicle, and this one also does come with a separate sign that can be displayed from the outside. We'll be taking a closer look at all of the minifigures at the end of this review and even seeing how they stack up to the previous counterparts, but for now, let's focus in on the main build. We're going to start off with the clown car itself. It's an interesting design and something very unique compared to some of the other vehicles that we've seen from The Simpsons before, but to be honest, I do have a few issues with its construction, and specifically those all have to do with the interior space in the vehicle. For whatever reason, the way that this is constructed makes it actually really difficult to get minifigures in and out without some disassembly, which is not really something I was expecting from a vehicle like this. In addition to that, the way that it's actually fully built is that there's some gaps on the underside of the car to actually have the minifigs be mounted on the side. There are extra studs allocated to technically fit 4 minifigures, but it's so cramped when you fit in 4, and they really don't stick on the studs. I have to question why they even included the extra studs, because clearly it's not meant to legally fit all 4 minifigures that you want to put in. Maybe if they were just regular minifigures without some crazy customized head molds, you might be able to make it work, but this is the Simpsons we're talking about. The car has to be built to accommodate their crazy head molds. That being said, I do like the color scheme. It is nice to get this very interesting multicolor car with the opening trunk. You've got the lime, the blue with the teal, as well as the pink, and I do like the front of it utilizing the Lego Monkey Kid cloud tile element as the hair for the clown, which I think just totally works really well, and they use that technique throughout multiple points in the set. But going into the interior, you can see what I mean here, how it's basically a 4-stud wide vehicle, and then they just have some studs on the side detailing on the sides of it to make up the doors, but there really was no sort of attempt to make it actually fill in the gaps, and as you can see, with 4 minifigures, it is way too crowded. It really doesn't work out that well. And even when you just have a single minifigure or 2 minifigures in there, the way their arms are positioned have to be fully raised up to the very top. The only way I was able to actually make this work was by literally taking apart the side tiles, which just doesn't seem right. And even just placing Krusty on the inside of the car, you may notice that he's kind of mounted at an angle. If you were to push him in, he actually tends to push the side tile out, which means that Krusty does not fit in the car by himself, or Homer or any of the other minifigs for that matter. No matter how you angle them or no matter how high you raise the arms, if you actually want them stuck firmly on the studs, it's gonna partially disassemble the car. So that is a little bit strange to me. It's a bit of a con that I feel like could have been fixed with a few different iterations. Moving on from that though, we can take a look at the Crusty Burger sign, and this is actually pretty well done. It's a very simple sign and everything is done up with stickers. Personally, I would have preferred if they included at least a couple of exclusive prints for the set, especially for the ones with the mouth of the Crusty Sign. I feel like the clown mouth could have been very improved with prints, and I had to pay very close attention when putting the stickers on. But honestly, it's not that big of a deal, and the entire sign by itself does look pretty good when it's fully finished. It is very, very simple in its construction though. You can also see there's a drive-through sign on the base of the sign itself, saying that that is the way out. So now let's move on to the main meat of the burger here, which is of course the restaurant itself. Now, I'm gonna be totally honest, from the outside, the restaurant is maybe the least interesting LEGO Simpsons set. It is basically just a rectangle, but that is kind of the point. It's meant to mimic a classic American fast food joint, and that's actually something that we haven't really seen represented in LEGO before. In fact, building this set made me wish that we would get some sort of like a LEGO McDonald's set or LEGO Burger King set. I don't think that would ever happen, but I feel like somebody could mod this into a McDonald's, and I would love seeing that, because this set has it all, as you're about to see in the interior. That being said, focusing on the outside first, there are some nice stickers referencing some classic Simpsons iconography like El Barto and Sideshow Bob for mayor, as well as the Crusty Burglar wanted on the poster there, which is a nice touch. And the LEGO Simpsons sets are really known for all of these funny little Easter eggs and references, and I'm really glad that continues onto here. The decals are just as much of the identity of this set as the rest of it. On the outside here, you have that fry oil, which is overflowing. You can see the grease literally bubbling over the top of this container here, which is a pretty funny touch. You can literally open the container and see the grease, and this tube does connect into the fry cooker on the inside. On the outside, you have the drive-thru menu, and this is probably the most interesting part of the outside of the set. I do like how some of the interesting building techniques were used, like those curved half semicircle pieces used on the outside for the hair, and then of course you've got the stickers, which are really nice, showcasing all the different items you can order from the Krusty Burger, from the burger to the cheeseburger to the bacon cheeseburger, the pork sandwich, the kids meal, the Krusty Dogs, Krusty Fries, Krusty Brand Chili, the milkshakes, Buzz Cola, or the Diet Buzz, or all of the above for only $39. This is honestly making me very, very hungry for some fast food right now. Going over to the main entrance to the building, you actually just have a standard door which says open and 12 served, which is very funny. It's open 24 hours, and you can also see where a car is kind of smashed in one of the poles there. So there's some external damage to the store, which is pretty funny to see. Otherwise, there's honestly not much else to see on the exterior. There's a bit of a mailbox showcasing the Krusty logo, as well as some brick-built ferns on the side, which kind of look like that classic Simpsons animation style, so that is nice to see. But otherwise, there really isn't much to say. There's some nice studs on the side building techniques to have an orange border around the windows, but I really want to get into the interior here because this is where the fun begins. As you can see, the interior is separated out into 3 distinct zones. You have the eating area with a couch as well as tables, plus the Krusty's Kids Zone, which is really nice that they were even able to fit it into a pretty small footprint here, and then we'll take a look at some of the other zones in a little bit. My favorite part of the restaurant is actually this section right here because it feels the most like a realistic fast food restaurant. The couch techniques to build it, having the curve around the couch, are actually really well done. And I also love the usage of the golden Wolverine claws as fries. Getting a recolor in plain yellow would have been nice, but I guess you can kind of say that yeah, they're golden crispy, so that sort of makes sense. You've got a sauce area on the side, you've got a literal ball pit for the kids zone, and everything is very compact, and yet there is still space to display figures. Technically, there are 4 seats around the tables, as well as a number of seats that you can put minifigures in for this couch area, so I think it all totally works out, especially given what you want to do with the space. Moving on from that though, we can take a look at one half of the kitchen here. You can see that you have a section where you can place your orders, there are some cash registers, and that actually does fold away so you can get easier access to the main kitchen. Taking a look at the main menu here, you can see that the prices are actually a little different from the menu seen outside, which I find pretty funny. And of course, there are all sorts of references to things you can see in the show, like getting a free slide whistle with your toy, or even having the dehydrated drinks, which is quite funny to see. Moving that aside though, let's take a look at the main interior of the kitchen because there's a lot to see here. You've got a box of coleslaw on the top there, which is best by February 1994, which maybe it's a little bit past the expiration date. Much like every McDonald's, there is an ice cream machine that is fully out of order, and I actually really like the building techniques used here. There's a little fan on the inside showcasing the cooling mechanism and the dispenser. It's just a really nicely done piece. And then of course you have the cash register where someone has racked up quite a large bill at the Krusty Burger. Bro thinks they're duck bricks. Moving on to over here, you've got the industrial grill, which has a nice sticker kind of referencing the manufacturer of the grill there. You even have some controls. You can kind of switch it from on to off with a fork on the top to actually be able to flip it back and forth. I guess that's supposed to be a skillet there. And you even have a place to dip the fries in oil. So you've got this little container for fries. You can dip it in the oil. And yeah, this is basically what you would see in a standard fast food restaurant. Even if you remove the Simpsons branding and go into this build completely with zero knowledge of the Simpsons at all, it genuinely is just a really good fast food restaurant LEGO build, which is definitely one of my favorite parts of the set. Moving over to the other side, you can quickly see that that actually connects all the way out with the oil leaking out of the pipe here, and then the final section is dedicated to both the drive-thru area plus the restroom. So the restroom itself is a pretty nice touch. You have, of course, a Ribwich advertisement on the outside, plus a standard restroom sticker, which I'm sure is going to be super useful. You've got some notice boards on the side here, and then for the drive-thru section, there are just some drink dispensers as well. The restroom itself is one of the funnier aspects of the model. You literally have a spill from the toilet there. You have, of course, the toilet paper being completely out, so there is just an empty roll with no toilet paper, and there's some nice parts usages as well. They're including a gray version of one of those new sloped elements for the sink there. Of course, the toilet is full of water. Thankfully, there isn't a different colored piece in there, but I just think it's just really nicely done. You've got a sign showing your next order is for 700 Krusty Burgers. Once again, bro thinks they're me. And then of course a way to dispense some of the drinks as well as a cash register machine on the side of the drive-thru itself. Altogether, I feel like they've captured pretty much every single aspect of a fast food restaurant in this build. Literally everything I would want to be included in a Krusty Burger in a fast food restaurant is here, and they spared no expense when it came to the detail. There's an outdoor section, there's a bathroom, there's a kitchen, there's an ordering station, there's a drive-thru window. It literally covers everything you would hope to see in a fast food restaurant, and I really applaud the designer for including all of the different elements there. Of course, moving on to the outside though, the set isn't 100% perfect, and what I will say is that all of that beautiful interior eventually results in an exterior that not only is a little bit boring from the outside, there's really just not much to see on the outside here, but it also is a little bit more fragile than I would have thought. The roofing technique is very, very basic. I would have expected to see something a little bit more sturdy and just something a bit more modern for a set like this, and altogether it really does feel in line with the other Simpsons sets from nearly 10 years ago, which is both a good and a bad thing. I really don't feel like there are that many advanced building techniques or things making this very sturdy, as opposed to many other icon sets nowadays. It feels very much like the first draft of what a model like this should be. Especially when you take a look at the roof, the way that these side elements are attached are very, very loose, and even the top roof itself is kind of a little wobbly when it comes to the center section. There isn't really a way to make it solidly stick down onto the restaurant itself. So honestly, there are a few cons with how it's built. I definitely do feel like the exterior could have been cleaned up. It could have been a little bit nicer in terms of the detail presented, but honestly, the interior is so good that I do have to say that this set is one of my favorites because I do really love that interior. That being said, it does cost $210 US and comes with just above 1,600 pieces. So is this worth $210? And honestly, I feel like my answer is not really. I feel like this would have been a much better set had it have come in at around 160, maybe even 170, 175, or at most 180, given that of course they had to create a ton of new molds for the heads, they had to resurrect some of the older molds, which basically cost the exact same amount as bringing back a new mold, and of course it does have all of these different sticker details, but I will say that honestly, I am not seeing the value there for $210 US. At least it's not $230 like a lot of the rumors were saying, but I just don't know if I can recommend this at full price, to be completely honest. But moving on from the build, it's time we zoom in on the minifigs. And one thing I want to point out is that I could not tell any differences between the original CMF versions of the minifigures, especially for Bart, as opposed to the characters here. Lisa technically is a new minifigure because the cloth cut of the skirt is different, but all the other components of Lisa are the same as far as I can tell, and of course, all the other characters that are new are pretty much 100% matching the original style of these Simpsons figures. But let's take a closer look at them right now. First off, we have Homer Simpson, the main character of the Simpsons series, and his head mold does look to be identical to the one that we got previously, same with the printing on the head. I personally would have loved to see an improvement to that piece, maybe showcasing a wide smile or something like that, to not just have him have this fully perpetually closed mouth that he had in all of the other iterations, but they decided not to make a new mold for the figure and just use that older one. Thankfully, this figure is a little bit different though, because he does actually have some stains on his shirt, which do set him apart from the previous iteration of Homer, but otherwise, he is just identical to what we've seen before. Next up, we have Bart, who as far as I can tell is identical to his previous CMF counterpart. This time he does come with a nice accessory with the actual slingshot there, which he had in LEGO Dimensions, but otherwise he is identical to those older minifigures. It's nice to get the dual molded arms and the dual molded legs, as well as that head sculpt again, but there honestly isn't really anything interesting about this one compared to what's come in before, so let's move on to the next figure. Lisa Simpson is also identical to the previous version of the character, except this time the cut for the cloth of the skirt is a little bit different. I actually like it better this time because it is harder to have kind of an overlap or have it be moving out to the side, which is one of the problems that the previous version had. This time the crease and separation is on the back of the minifigure, so I do think that is a major improvement. That being said, the printing on the torso does look identical. I will say that the yellow on red printing does seem to have gotten a little bit better over the years, but really that's the only tangible difference I noticed. Although again, do keep in mind that in order to bring the head molds back, they had to basically spend the same amount of money as creating a new mold. But speaking of new molds, this is the new version of Krusty the Clown. Since we already got Krusty in both the CMF Series 1 as well as the LEGO Dimensions Fun Pack, LEGO decided to give him a different outfit for this set, featuring Krusty with a hat on for his farmer's outfit. While I do appreciate getting a brand new figure, and it is nice to get a different look for the character, I will say it is a little strange to have a set literally focused on Krusty and not have him in his most iconic outfit, although again, that other minifigure is very cheap if you do want to pick it up, having come in two pretty inexpensive sets, so I'm sure that's what LEGO was thinking when they made this new version. The head sculpt is very nicely done. It looks to be triple molded with the dark tan of the hat, teal for the back hair, and then of course the cool yellow being used for the skin tone here. LEGO has actually changed their cool yellow color very slightly. It's a brand new mix this year. Same with their white color actually, of all things, so it is nice to get that in this color here. And then of course you have the farmer outfit with dual molded arms, which is very simple. Moving on from that, we have the squeaky voice teen, another character that just totally makes sense to have in the Krusty Burger. Again, it looks like he has a triple molded component for the head, with dark tan hair, a white cap, as well as the yellow skin. Once again, very nicely produced. His accessory is of course the broom. I like the print of the freckles on the face, and the torso is very plain, but that makes sense because it is again based off of the Simpsons animated characters. Altogether, the figure is generally very well produced. I like the head sculpt, the accessory is good, and I also like how they're doing dual molding for most of the characters in this series when it comes to the arms. Speaking of, next up we have Officer Lou here, who is, again, a new character for this set, but also very nicely done. You have a triple molded component for the hat and head combo, with the blue, black, and the brown being used for the skin tone. Nice dual molded arms, which I'm sure are just going to be very useful in general, and even the police torso is not so simplistic that I could even see this being used outside of just Simpsons. I honestly don't have that much else to say about the character, but once again it is very nicely produced. I like the printing of the gold on the top of the cap there, and then we can move on to probably the most anticipated minifigure from the set, which of course is Sideshow Bob. Sideshow Bob is one of the characters that I honestly never thought we would get in minifigure form, and obviously during the reveal, he was the character that got the biggest applause when we first saw him wheeled out in front of the LEGO Set Designer Showcase, because he is just a very iconic character to get from The Simpsons, and the mold for the head is incredibly well done. The hair actually looks almost freakily realistic in the way it's depicted. Of course, he has a very long and narrow face, and it's just very well done. Overall, the minifigure selection is excellent for this set. I really have no complaints, and especially for the return of the Simpsons, it does make total sense to get 3 members of the Simpsons family, even though they are very similar to the minifigs we've gotten in the past. Altogether, I'm a little mixed on this build. I feel like it has a great interior, the minifigure selection is great, but the exterior does leave a little bit to be desired. But I can't even really blame the designers for that one because the exterior is very, very basic. The only thing I will say is I wish that it was a little bit sturdier, especially in the roof construction. The sign does feel like it could have been attached to the building, maybe having like a longer drive-through with an actual road for the car to pass by and the sign being attached to the other side of that would have helped it. But honestly, for $210, I do have trouble saying that this is worth the money you're spending. Of course, if you're a diehard fan of The Simpsons waiting for LEGO to bring back the theme for years, then it makes total sense as to why this would be the 2025 set for you. But if you're like me and just a casual fan, I don't necessarily know if I could recommend it at the price. At $180, if it ever went on sale, probably. At $160 or $70, 100%. But $210 is a lot to swallow just given the footprint of the building. It is a pretty small build as you saw in the beginning of this video with it in my hands, but altogether, again, like the interior, just feel like it could have been a little bit better, a little bit more expanded for the price tag. That's all for this video. Thanks for tuning in to my early review of the brand new LEGO Simpsons Krusty Burger. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think of the set? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Is it worth the price to pay? And will you be picking it up when it releases on June 1st of this year? Thanks all, and bye for now.